Hey everybody, my name is Lewis Butler. I'm the sales manager here at SimpleRay. We're going to do a quick, quote unquote, quick webinar on the Illinois Adjustable Block Program, do an update of how things are going currently, where things stand, where we think things might be headed. So, I know a lot of people are working from home these days, and you say, my gosh, Lewis is wearing this goofy headset. Love taking calls on this thing, very liberating for the hands. This is the Sennheiser MB Pro 2. So if you're looking for a really high quality Bluetooth headset, highly recommended here. So we're going to go ahead and get started now that I've apologized for my COVID hair and the audio here, and make sure we have good audio. What are we hoping to cover today? What we're hoping to cover is the adjustable block program. What is that? And we're going to be talking a lot about these large DG wait lists, specifically block 4. Will there be a block 5? And if you're thinking about doing a project right now, what does this mean for you? Or what if your project's currently already sitting on a wait list? What is that system going to look like for you as well? I have some customers who are in all phases of this. They got in before the wait list, they got bumped off of the wait list, they're going to go on to the wait list. So I want to talk through all those options and what that means. So what is the adjustable block program? And here we'll make the screen a little bit bigger here, so less blurry me and more of the slide here. The adjustable block program in the state of Illinois, the goal is to produce 25% of its electricity from renewables by 2025. One way to think about this is it is like a New Year's resolution, right? This is the goal of the state. And in order to do that, they passed FEJA, the Future Energy Jobs Act, and they allocated a bunch of funding through the utility companies in order to incentivize the installation of solar power. So the adjustable block program was the result of this legislation, and it's a program that's designed to pay people for the amount of electricity that they produce, either at their home, at their business, or maybe there's a large community solar installation that people are going to buy their power from, to encourage the developer to go out and build that community solar. So now that this program has been out there, how does this thing actually work? You receive a payment for installing solar. So if you're on the residential side, or I referred to 10 kW and below as residential, but anyone can take advantage of that, even businesses. All of that money comes out in year 1. If you install something bigger than 10 kW, and that's an AC number, it's going to pay you out 20% once you get all of your paperwork in, and then 5% per quarter after that. And then all the payments are based on a block system. We have a couple of slides about this. And the last thing to know is there are limited funds. So there's a whole bunch of rules. You have to do a whole bunch of paperwork, which your solar company like SimpleRay is always going to be happy to do. But there was and is a little bit of limited amount of funding available in all of these different categories. So, and this is where any solar company that you're working with, not just myself or someone from SimpleRay, should be able to help you along this process and kind of explain in detail where all these numbers are coming from and where the money's coming and going. One question that we get a lot, at least early on before the program had rolled out, and the program's been around for a year or two now, and we've had projects that have been installed starting in 2019 or maybe even a little bit before that have taken advantage of the program. These payments are coming from the utilities. They're not actually coming from the state of Illinois itself. A lot of people worry about the state having the ability to pay these funds or allocating them somewhere else. So to the extent possible, this money has been locked away with the utility companies. So these payments aren't coming from taxes. So the program is there. People are collecting these checks. The program is funded to a reliable extent. So it takes a little bit of work to kind of wade through that sometimes, but that's the important outcome there. Who is included in this program? Originally, the program rolled out. It was meant to apply to everybody. But then some of the investor-owned utilities, namely ComEd, said, hey, you know what? We don't think municipalities and co-ops, customers should be involved with this program. So there's kind of a hassle or tussle back and forth there. At one point when we were doing these webinars, municipalities and co-ops were not included. So, you can watch me visibly age along with this program over the last couple of years. We have 4 or 5 webinars out about this. So if you want early iterations or more detail, go and watch those. But as of right now and going forward, municipalities and co-ops are definitely included in the adjustable block program. So you might have been told early on, say you're on Corn Belt or one of these smaller municipalities, then you're definitely going to be, you might have been told, hey, you're not included. but now you're definitely going to be included. So just know that everyone in Illinois can be taking a look at this program. So, this is kind of the meat and potatoes here of the adjustable block program and the nitty gritty. But you can see there's a couple of things that we need to briefly describe here. I realize I can't point at my screen. I should point with my mouse, perhaps. There's Group A and Group B. So what group you're in depends on the utility company that currently services you. So if you're in Ameren on Mid-American, and this is for distribution, you're in Group A. And it says, municipalities and co-ops in the MISO territory, you should be thinking southern, central, and western parts of the state are going to be in Group A. And then Group B is going to be ComEd and anyone in the PJM territory. So you think Chicagoland area, northeast corner of the state is going to be on PJM there. So within each group, there are different block categories. So there's the small block, and then there's the large block, which covers 10 kW AC up to 2,000 kW AC. And there's different incentives for different tiers within there. And the same holds true both in Group A and Group B. And then there's another category that I haven't included here, and that's community solar. It's outside the scope of what we typically do, and that money and that program has been oversubscribed for so long. I think everyone who's definitely interested in that has been made well aware, and there's no major updates there. So then within each category, large on Group A, you have Block 1, Block 2, Block 3. And the idea was after a certain amount of capacity and so much solar has been installed, these incentives are going to keep stepping down, so there wasn't too much solar coming onto the grid at any one point in time. It would kind of be this measured response. But what happened is the program was rolled out, and the demand and the pent-up demand was so high that the capacity in Block 1, Block 2, and Block 3 almost immediately were burned through. So, if your project was submitted in January, February of last year, it might have ended up in the lottery. And what immediately happened was that these blocks were completely consumed. So there's no funding left in Block 1, Block 2, or Block 3. And I'm going to say within the last month, it's April of 2020 right now, Block 1 of small DG, both in the ComEd and Ameren territories, has officially closed. And so that incentive has now stepped down about 4%. So if you have a solar proposal for your house from 6 months ago, it might have you getting a larger payment from this program than you would get if you went and applied today. So still money left in the small residential, I think of it, parts of this program on Block 2 and Block 3, but on the C&I side, that money is definitely gone. So you might be saying, Lewis, why, if you really love the C&I space, why is it that you're still talking to us about the adjustable block program? Well, the reason is, after that initial launch, the IPA had held back, the Illinois Power Agency had held back some additional capacity in this program. And they wanted to allocate it to where they thought they could get the most production per dollar possible. And so what they end up doing is they put almost all of it, not all of it, but a very large chunk of this into a Block 4, which had lower payments than Block 3, but still very, very good incentive. Into the large DG spaces on both Ameren and ComEd. So in Group A, there's an additional 91.5 megawatts AC available in the Ameren territory there, and 33 in ComEd territory. So they really allocated a lot of that discretionary capacity into the large C&I space, which was great for folks like me who are talking to commercial businesses, industrial businesses, farmers with large grain or hog or steer operations. This money really went to a lot of those places. So what's happened since this happened last spring or the summer, what's since happened is people have been applying for this Block 4 money, or this incentive in Block 4, and this is what the pricing looked like. And what happened about a month ago, on I think it was March 5th for ComEd and March 6th for Ameren, or Group B and Group A there, is all that money had projects apply to take up those spots for funding. And so this block 4 pricing, this block 4 funding is not really available as we sit here and talk today. And what happened is if you submit your project after these blocks close like they have, you get put on a wait list. So if your project comes off the wait list, technically you're still eligible for block 4 pricing. But if you were to ask me today, hey, will my project get block 4 pricing? There's no definitive way to answer that question. And so this is where we start really digging into this. Well, if there's no block 4, well, will there be a block 5, and how much money will there be? So if you look block 1 to block 2, block 2, block 3, each time you're stair-stepping down about 4%. Some of our customers say, hey, these programs, they come and they go. We understand there's legislation that's been introduced. Can you project out what a block 5 would be? It's like, we can absolutely project something, out, but there is no hard written in stone numbers around this as I record this webinar today. So anything that we say about any potential block 5 is purely speculation. That's why I have an asterisk on this slide. There's no way to guarantee if funding is going to be available for block 5 or what that funding will look like once it's available. So the IPA at one point had said, hey, this might be some block 5 funding Sunday, but that's only if they stick to this pattern that they've done to date. So I kind of have it in yellow there. It could happen, it may not happen, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just know that block 4 is the hard stop for funding currently. And because the coronavirus and the legislature not being in session currently, no legislation is currently moving quickly to give us any sort of indication of yes, there will be, or no, there won't be a block 5. So we have this block 4 pricing highlighted. Why is that? And that's because there's currently a wait list. So if you have a project and what does it mean to get on the wait list? To get on the wait list, you have to have approved interconnection paperwork with your utility company, and you at the very least have to have some permitting done in your county or the jurisdiction that the project is going to be going into. So the IPA has actually, the program administrator and the IPA have done a very good job. They update this wait list on a daily basis, at least during the week. And so you can go to the IPA website and you can take a look at what the wait list looks like. As you can imagine, some projects that may be bought into the program 6 months, a year ago, submitted all the paperwork, they haven't been built yet. There might be a variety of reasons for those projects. Maybe they're not moving forward. Maybe because of the coronavirus, their business is, unfortunately struggling right now, and they say, hey, I'm going out of business. I can't pay for this project. This project is over. Maybe something happened with permitting that caused it to take a negative turn. Maybe during the application process, the approved vendor, whoever is doing the project, didn't do enough due diligence. And they can't build the project in the way they thought they were going to. Some structural analysis came back weird. You can imagine 100 different things that might kill a project here. And so that means that projects that applied for funding but weren't there soon enough can now get funding. So we go in every day, we kind of update our spreadsheet as to what's happening. And so, on the first day, there was 51 projects in Ameren territory that were waitlisted, so about 6 megs. And there was about 1.5 megs in ComEd territory. And as you can see, these amounts, they go up and go down. Some projects get removed, and they can be a large project or a small project. And then projects are also getting added all of the time. And so we kind of keep track of how many get added, how many get subtracted. So for example, here on March 26th, 22 projects, a little over a meg of projects disappeared out of the ComEd group, which means most of the people who are on this wait list, and I had a few customers at the beginning of the wait list here, their projects were approved and they did receive block 4 pricing. So if your business is currently in a position where you say, hey, I would like to see the numbers, is this going to be something that can be attractive? What we're currently doing at Simple Array is we're taking a really low down payment, just enough to cost a couple of permits going into the county and filing interconnection with ComEd or Ameren. And we aren't taking a large down payment at all. And we're saying, hey, let us just go do this paperwork. Once we have the paperwork, we can submit it to the program administrator. If your project moves off the wait list, we can then bill you for what we would consider a second payment and keep the project moving forward. If it doesn't, if or when more funding becomes available, all this work that we've done today is going to be ready to go, 3, 6, 12 months from now. And if there is more funding, you don't have to start off from square one. You can already be a few steps ahead and apply for the highest round of funding that becomes available in the future if they keep the program structured the same way it is today, with each block going down an incentive level. So if this is a project that your organization is interested in, you have some tax liability, you want to save on your electric bill, because there's all different ways to finance this, right? You should still be taking a look at this, and maybe it makes sense to get on a wait list. And this is where, really digging into this with whatever company you happen to be working with, hopefully it's Simple Array, you really need to understand each step of this process and how much money you have at risk and how likely it is that your product's going to move forward, so that you can make a well-informed decision based upon what you and your organization's goals are. Excuse me. So really want to applaud the IPA and the program administrator for making this data available. Really helps us have in-depth conversations with our customers about where they're at and where they hope to be. So I've kind of mentioned, there's potential for future funding here. What does that look like? Prior to the coronavirus, the industry was spending a little bit of time down in Springfield, and the piece of legislation we're really focused on, or at Simple Array we're most excited about, is the Path to 100 bill. It funds renewables going into the future, so it kind of gets rid of this little fiscal cliff that we're facing currently. So prior to the coronavirus, the governor called upon the legislature to pass renewable energy legislation. There's energy working groups happening. Excuse me. Whether you think those are moving faster, really going to get some legislation done is open to interpretation. But it's definitely something that people were talking about and legislators were aware of, and there was some momentum behind that. So if you want to learn more about that, you can give me a call, shoot me an email, lewisbutler@simplearray.com, find me on LinkedIn. Go check out the Path to 100 website, path100.net. But there is reason to believe at some point in time these incentive programs could come back. That's why Simple Array continues to be engaged, invested in Illinois. We're still building projects. We're still helping people look at their utility bills. So we're excited about renewables in Illinois. It's just a timing issue like everything else. So because I can't seem to stop coughing, I really appreciate everyone's attention. COVID here, dogs may be running in and out of the webinar here. Shoot me an email, ask me questions. I would love to hear from people, and if they have any other ideas or interesting paths forward here, or maybe you have a project in a different state, would love to talk with you about that. So thanks for watching and have a great day.